Hi, we are Group 7 and we'll be discussing about in-depth analysis and recommendations for Sony websites, both Singapore and United States versions. Most of the problems that we identify from both websites are similar and could be fixed easily by adopting general web solutions. From our analysis, the customers like to have a website that is localized and the content is clear and understandable. At the same time, the website should not offend to any culture regarding with the images, color, or language. Based on this research, our team came up with some recommendations for Sony to increase the trust, loyalty, and satisfaction level of the customers. Firstly, we would like to present the problems that we identify from Sony websites. For Sony Singapore version, the homepage comprises too much information that is not necessary for the customers. If a user wants to find the information about a specific product, he has to make minimum 2-3 clicks to reach the desired page. At the right sidebar of the homepage, there are multiple little boxes of various features and app days which are difficult for the users to scan the site. Having many tabs and links at the homepage make the navigation confusing and skeletal for putting information into various places across the website. Moreover, the website does not encompass all web pages and a common web address. The PlayStation link from Sony Singapore directs to another web address which is asia.playstation.com. This may give a bad user experience since it leads the user to another website that they might not intend to visit. Moving on to Sony US version, it has totally different layout with Singapore site. It's lacking standardized layout across different locations and losing their corporate identity. Sony can refer to Apple how they standardize their layout for different designs and different size regardless of the locations. Similar to Sony Singapore, US homepage also involves too much information as the user has to scroll down to view the recent tweets and latest news from Sony. The information of the products are highly organized and scattered across various websites. For example, when we look for LED TV from Sony USA website, it directed to different new website store.sony.com. There is a lot of inconsistency among the web pages regarding with the layout and content, so the user has to learn and adapt to new design, although it's not the case for him.
In order to solve the problems that we identified above, our team has come up with a couple of recommendations to assist Sony to offer better customer service experience. Since the customers from the different locations have a different taste of design, we have come up with an innovative idea about creating a joint website that can truly showcase our culture with a unified front across the region. We have created 3 versions about the homepage for the Sony, which is global homepage, to show the global purpose and the presenting about news and updates from the Sony. Another one is United States homepage, which is localized for the US region to present primarily with the organization and aesthetic simplicity design. And the last one is the Singapore homepage, which is localized for the Singapore and providing quick and accessible information to the customers. All 3 pages can be easily accessible from the drop-down list of the home page upon the customer choice. And there will be a menu bar which is consistent across all the Sony websites as well. And the menu bar will be 4 unifying pages, which is Home, About Us, Product, and the Support. Home pages for the different location where we customize based on the region, while the other pages were mostly presenting a similar information layout to maintain the consistency. By doing so, it will enhance the user experience with the user so that the user will have a consistent and unified layout across the different websites. About Us page will simply provide an overview about Sony and its objective. Support page will allow the user to browse all the available support and services from the Sony with useful feedback from the Sony users. We also propose to categorize the Sony products into 3 main parts, which is PlayStation, Electronic, and the Entertainment. This product page will consolidate all the information about Sony products in one place. Lastly, to provide better interaction between Sony customer and the website, we have decided to improve the search functionality. Currently, Sony shows the search result in a list view and it becomes a hassle when there are so many search results coming up. The current filtering function from the Sony website is not effective to handle the problem as well. Therefore, our team has proposed to enhance the search functionalities by showing the result in 2 different ways, grid view and the list view, so that the user can filter the result corresponding to their product, support, or the glossary. We also will show the most relevant such result, and the user can view more by loading more results. After we have come up with these recommendations, we build a wireframe prototype to present our proposed recommendation. Now, our team from the CMU side will elaborate more about our prototype.
So what we did in the global web page was we wanted to make it more clean than how it looks now. So we got rid of the big banner that was in the middle and have a set of smaller pictures that could show the customers with products of Sony. And we also narrowed down the amount of information that goes into the nav bar to 4 things instead of having each relocate the customer to their own homepage. And
two of the biggest changes too between the United States, global, and Singapore is that in global these are like really like just general, kind of doing whatever you want. So these can be like press releases. These could be like investor information. Like the global site kind of has all that bunched together. But then for like the U.S. site, again, just the U.S. is so focused on like people and interaction, and much more emotional in terms of its marketing. So the idea here is something that's like big, bold, keeping this kind of idea of it's the people, it's like the emotions you feel that like kind of like are sway more of the U.S. market. So Sony is a relatively premium brand. They're not really making the cheapest products. There's a lot of competition in that area. And so we really want the U.S. site to like kind of focus on that. Whereas in this site, it's a little bit more focused on the products themselves, like how they are, and like really displaying just the information. So here we have a lot more product coming out. Again, like just the content is really trying to show off the specs and everything. So that's some of the the big changes in that the websites feel very similar. But they certainly send a very different message, which is something that we really wanted to do. Is that there's not really any big change here in terms of design. You can navigate both sites very easily, but just the message is coming across. It's very different. And that's like our main goal, I guess, here.
And then another thing that came along with having like one design for all countries is having a consistent products page. As Mike mentioned earlier, that PlayStation's kind of its own brand here in the U.S. So having the products page will just have their main products, and then just have these tabs here to switch from what type of products you're looking for. And this is something that will be consistent throughout each country. Again, the content might be a little different depending on the pictures or the marketing strategy, but as you walk through, it's going to be consistent for both the global, U.S. and Singapore site.
And then so just to look at some of the other pages we have up here in the navigation. So in support, one of the biggest things about support is just people being able to contact in a way that feels comfortable to them. Some people would much rather send an email or talk to someone online. I'm sure most older generations just want to call someone or go to a store. So really we want to again streamline that process as quick as possible and get the most information as you can kind of later. So whether you want to go to a store, just like get customer support, etc. Again, culturally this might change. So it's like pretty free to do that. And then I guess for the About Us is pretty simple. Again, just like being able to like have different content. Maybe on the global site this is more investor related, kind of Sony global. In the U.S. it could be about like the brands and how like Sony can impact your life, etc. So we're really trying to maybe not get down to the nitty gritty of the design, but really give an overarching kind of like brand. So this is the current Sony global site. It's really focused way more on, I guess, for investors and people just finding information about Sony itself. So all these things like electronics, really just take you back to this redirect page. There's not a lot of information here unless you're looking for like news, etc. So we feel that if you're a consumer and you end up on this site, you're more or less lost. And so again, that's something we really don't want to do. We never want a consumer to essentially be lost. And so it's again in the redesign, you never feel lost because you can always kind of jump around. The US site is we took a lot of our inspiration from. We feel like this was really well done. However, we did kind of want to break up again the brands and what really Sony does They do pretty much electronics, PlayStation, entertainment, but PlayStation has its own website that has almost no Sony branding on it. So if you go like here to the PlayStation website, which I just opened 2 tabs, there's no Sony branding, just kind of like hidden up here in the corner. And again, you can't really even look at, different consoles. Like the navigation scheme is just 100% different than back on the Sony US page, where you're more or less just directed to different places. So essentially, we don't want people to have to be directed to different Sony sites that give a much different experience. The color scheme is the same, the font is the same, but otherwise, the navigation is 100% different between each Sony experience. That's something we felt was a really weak part of their current design. In the Singapore site, it just feels a little bit outdated. They don't even separate, business and professional from the consumer products. There's just so much going on. It's just very hard to navigate. It really feels like it's been neglected, honestly. It's hard to read a lot of the links. This is just really too much information for most people to handle, and it's just really not that useful. And so we feel like even though Sony as a global brand really should have a much tighter, global experience. And so this, when you see the U.S. site and you see this polished, really professional, web experience that conveys a luxury brand, clearly Sony Singapore is not that. This is also true for a lot of other countries that Sony is in. So you can see here, if you go to, for example, the Oman page, I don't know how to pronounce that, but you'll see that again, the color scheme is the same, but the navigation, completely changes. It's not similar to the Singapore site or the U.S. site. This is very similar to the Singapore site in English, but when you change languages, it really changes the experience as well. So it's just kind of all over the place. So if you look at, and another big source that we looked at is Apple. So Apple US, as probably everyone's familiar with this website, is just absolutely stunning in terms of design. Very simplistic, clean navigation. It's consistent across all their countries. So if you choose, who knows? Let's go to New Zealand. I don't know. Again, the message is different. There's different content and there's different advertising, but really the design is staying the same. So no matter where you are in the entire world, essentially you can navigate this site very, very easily. But no matter what, you're getting a very similar experience, which is really what we wanted to go with. It also takes a lot of pressure off of Sony themselves because they can have much less people managing their web experience. So they can make one design change and push it out to the entire world and not have to worry about each individual site. We can give them a real global presence and not individual design and message for every single site. We want essentially Sony to be able to message and work on its marketing and not have to worry about people losing their way in different sites. We want to make it as simple as possible and really work with kind of the global minimal design changes to kind of rebrand your entire web experience.